Hi, I'm Gary, and welcome to the Power of Prudence. I teach the Power of Prudence principles as ways of increasing your self-reliance for your personal safety and security. Today, I'd like to also bring up another benefit of doing that. Sure, we all know that when you build your capacity to take care of yourself and your loved ones, or build that capacity in your family, that you're increasing their level of protection and security. But at the same time, you're also increasing their level of leadership. I talk a lot about the principles, or what I say constitutes prudence in regards to personal safety and security. And that's knowledge, preparation, vigilance, and then courage to both decide and the courage to take action. Those things are, when you combine those, that is what I call the power of prudence. And it's obvious how that helps individuals take care of themselves. But look how each one of those factors pertains to leadership. For example, knowledge. If I am getting ready to go somewhere, whether that's conduct a mission or go downtown Washington, D.C., I'm going to do my homework to know where I'm going, what the situation is, and be knowledgeable about events there. Why do I do that? Because that enables me to, in some respects, predict not maybe exactly what will happen, but for me to predict the probability of what could or might happen, and then take measures to either up my level of readiness or be better prepared. So think of how that pertains to leadership. Leaders look out in advance. Leaders see trouble coming over the horizon. Then we go to preparation. Once I've gathered my knowledge, I then have to make preparations based on that knowledge. A leader does that. People may be lazy and not want to do all the things necessary, or let's take on a special forces team, do their escape and evasion planning before they go off and do the mission. They just want to plan on how to do that mission. But a leader makes sure that we take that extra step to be fully prepared for all emergencies. So again, the preparation lends itself to both taking care of yourself and to leadership. Vigilance, my experience when I have been around a lot of places, eventually people get tired or people stop paying attention. I've always wanted to be that person that doesn't let down my guard. If I'm out with a bunch of friends who are having a good time, maybe drinking or whatever, I'm always going to hold back some and maintain the capability to perceive what's going on around us, and if necessary, take some sort of action. So, vigilance is important, and vigilance is also an attention to detail, I feel, a characteristic of leadership. Courage, we all know it takes courage to be a leader. Sometimes it's courage to make a decision. A lot of people will be indecisive. Nobody wants to put forth an idea because it might sound odd or be risky, and we don't want ridicule or we don't want blame. So a leader has to have that courage. And someone making a decision in a life-threatening situation also needs to have the courage to decide. Then after you decide, you have to act. Someone has to take that action, and leaders are willing to lead by example and take that action. So all the aspects that I feel define prudence or make up what I call the power of prudence lend themselves to leadership. And when I say leadership, I'm actually referring to what I call servant leadership. I was a big fan of John Maxwell, who first taught me about servant leadership. And in my experience around the world and in dangerous situations and several life-threatening situations, people always turn to the person, A, that has invested in them and has been a servant leader, or B, or sometimes both, the person who has shown that they do the things that we talked about comprise prudence. They'll turn to the person that has done the homework to be knowledgeable, to be prepared. Turn to that person that is being vigilant so that they are the first to see that problem heading their way. And they will turn to the person that's willing to put themselves at risk to both make a decision or to take action. There's positional leadership, and people that have been given positions of leadership, and usually authority or some level of authority goes with that. But in the life-threatening emergencies I've been around, often the people will not turn to that person if they feel there's someone else, and sometimes, yeah, that's been me, that has more experience or is better prepared to make decisions in that life-threatening situation during that time. So servant leadership I think, trumps positional leadership in a life-threatening situation. Another aspect of that is that we've all heard this saying, which I really hate, that it's a political saying. I view it as a political saying now, is never let a crisis go to waste. People recognize that in a crisis, let's go back to 9/11 and, or the Great Depression, that in a crisis, when something hurts people enough, scares them enough, causes enough pain points, they will do almost anything or give up almost anything or pay anything to relieve that problem. Hey, salespeople know that, right? And they know if it's a pain point, they can exact a higher price. I hate that thing about don't let a crisis go to waste. And the reason I do is I feel that often it is done by people or entities that are wanting to amass wealth. So they want to take advantage of a crisis to exact as much money as they can from somebody. I personally think back to some of the money made by some of these corporations on COVID vaccines and during that time, right? But we didn't care. We'd pay them whatever to take care of what we perceived as a life-threatening problem. And besides corporations or people wanting to amass money, I think it's often used by individuals or governments that want to increase their level of control over people, control over processes, and control over resources. Because, go back to 9/11 and some of the laws that came out from the 9/11 Commission that in many respects may hurt us today, but at the time we just wanted the big bad terrorists to go away, and we were willing to give up whatever it took to make that happen. So I believe that this saying of don't let a crisis go to waste is bad. And the more that we rely on other people to take care of us, the more, if there's a crisis and I can't deal with it myself, or a life-threatening emergency, and I want and rely on somebody else to take care of it, I am ceding control. I am ceding maybe money to those people. So I feel that the way we fight giving up control to other people is to make sure that we develop the capacity to take care of ourselves in emergencies, and to develop that in our families and with our peers and groups. So, again, and to be honest, I think that these days there are people that intentionally create crises or problems that can be viewed as a crisis or urgent situations just so that we will give up something in order for them to fix it for us. So, we have to develop our own self-reliance. When we do that, A, we defend ourselves. We have the capacity to defend ourselves. And B, that we can decide for ourselves. Nobody else has to make decisions for us. And lastly, that we can lead. Going forward in the future, common sense people need to be able to step up and lead. And we need to develop that capability, that level of leadership in our children for the future generations. Hey, that's my opinion. Thanks for listening to me on this Friday after Memorial Day. Have a good one and see you next week.